What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for Me Before You. Now, the plot basically follows Louisa Clarke, played by Emilia Clarke, a young woman who's trying to find a job to support her family. She is then given the opportunity to be a carer for Will Traynor, played by Sam Claflin, a stubborn disabled man who has a pretty hopeless outlook on life. It doesn't take long, however, for these two to share an unlikely bond with one another. Emilia Clarke is well known for her role on Game of Thrones, but let me tell you, the way she portrays this character in this movie is quite a contrast to how she portrays the Mother of Dragons. Her personality is just so bubbly and full of life that it's almost impossible not to like her in this movie. She is full of determination and pluckiness that you want to see her succeed throughout this movie. And I can tell you that I loved her throughout this film from the moment she popped up on screen. And I can also say that she did a way better job in this film than in that Terminator Genesis from last year. Likewise, Sam Claflin also does a very good job. I've previously seen him in another romance movie, and that is Love, Rosie opposite Lily Collins, and this is quite a different character to play in comparison to that movie. He's a disabled man once again, and that's not the easiest role to play in the world. It's not a very flashy performance in comparison to how other actors have played similar types of roles in the past, but I think Claflin sells it with his charisma and just how rude his character is to Clarke in the beginning of this movie. You also understand why he feels this way throughout, but the chemistry that Clarke and Claflin do have really is so impeccable. These lead performances are only strengthened by the outstanding supporting cast and the well-written screenplay. Speaking of that, this movie is based on the best-selling novel of the same name. I've never read it, but the author of that said book, Jojo Moyes, did adapt her own source material into a script for the movie. I always find that as a nice touch for when the author of a book that's turned into a movie is involved with the making of the film. The writing she does bring is superb. We really get to understand these characters. We get to see how each event really does play out in a necessary manner, but also get to really see how this movie hits all the right notes when it does so. It's a type of movie that does occasionally fall into some cliches. That's one problem that I will give this movie. There are some things that this movie tries to do to become different and stand out with other similar movies from the same genre, but it does run into a couple of snags here and there that does make me feel like I really am watching a romance movie that does have these types of flaws. But these setbacks do not stop the movie from portraying what it wants to show on screen, including its sensitive subject matter. This story does have quite a bit of controversy surrounding it and how it portrays disabled people. I have something to defend with that. I personally have a disability myself too. I permanently lost the majority of my hearing in my left ear and use a bone-anchored hearing aid to improve my communication and hearing skills. So I feel somewhat during some events of this film. I initially felt crappy about myself. I felt like I didn't have much drive left in me to really continue even with this big setback put up against me. And Will is very rude at times, and he does portray himself as just not very likable, but the movie's big message of living boldly and just showing life is really what you make of it is reinforced. Even with its touchy subject matter though, this movie does bring a fair amount of laughs to it. Emilia Clarke's character herself is very funny. She does bring a lot of the laughs that this movie has to offer. The movie is well shot in its cinematography. It shows off a lot of really nice looking locations in the UK that I would like to visit someday. The costume design deserves a very special mention, as some of the clothing that Emilia Clarke's character does wear only adds to her very quirky attitude. I just loved Emilia Clarke in this movie so much. The editing in this movie is another complaint I do have with it. There are some moments in this movie, especially towards the beginning, where some frames just feel dropped out of nowhere, but it didn't bother me as the movie progressed. I also really liked the choice of music for this movie. Some songs really add to the emotional investment and attachment you'll have with these characters and the plot given at hand. Overall, I do think this movie does succeed in what it's trying to tell. I can see why people would be hesitant to even want to see this movie, as at its core, it is a sad story. However, it is an ultimately uplifting tale about looking at life in a whole new different manner, no matter what circumstances you might be put into. The movie is well paced at just under 2 hours, so you never feel like it's too long or too short. The compelling lead performances from Emilia Clarke and Sam Claflin truly bring this movie to a whole nother level. The supporting cast, the fantastic writing, the technical merits throughout, and some tear-jerking moments will have you feeling for this movie throughout. I assume fans of the book will really be interested in seeing how their beloved source material is put on the big screen. If you're a fan of these types of movies also, I definitely recommend it for all the good attributes that this movie has to offer. And don't forget to bring tissues to this one. My final verdict for Me Before You is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Me Before You, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.